Welcome back, everyone. And in today's video lesson, we are going to look at the intervals of major and minor scales. And really, we're going to be looking at the specific intervals. So not the general intervals. We've already kind of done that. So I have here below a C major scale. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at first, is the C major scale. And I'd like to just sort of cut this up and look at all the individual unique intervals that we have in here. All right, so from C to D, we're going to call that interval, we're going to call that one a major second. And what I'm going to do is, for major, if an interval is major, I'm going to write that as just capital M. And if an interval happens to be minor, it's pretty standard to write that as a lowercase m. So major second. And then we're going to look at, so now we're going from C to D is a major second, and then we go from C to E, and now we're going to call that a major third. And now we look at from C to F, and we're going to call that interval a perfect fourth. And then we look at from C to G, we're going to call that interval a perfect fifth. Moving on, we look at C to A, we're going to call that interval a major sixth. Moving on, we look at C to B. We're going to call that interval a major 7. And then finally, we would call from C to C, which is considered to be an octave up, we're going to call that a perfect 8. All right, so a perfect 8 or a perfect octave. Okay, so there's a couple of interesting points here. One is, notice that we have major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7, and perfect 8th or perfect octave. So we have major, major, perfect, perfect, major, major, perfect. Okay. And actually, I really did not include one of them, but what if we went from C to C, right? What if we went from that, and that would give us a perfect unison? And I'll just write that as PU. So if I went from C to the same pitch, to the exact same pitch, C to C, not a different C, but the same C, then that would give us a perfect unison. So in that respect, we would have perfect, major, major, perfect, perfect, major, major, perfect, perfect, right? It would kind of keep going over and over again. All right, so now let's take a look at what would be the intervals of, how about the C minor scale? Okay, and so C minor would have C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. Once again, let's cut this up. And we would have from C to C would be a perfect unison. From C to D would be a major second. From C to E flat would be a minor third. From C to F would be a perfect fourth. From C to G would be a perfect fifth. From C to A flat would be a minor sixth. From C to B flat would be a minor 7. And then from C to an octave up would be a P8, a perfect 8. Okay, so some interesting things to look at here. Well, you notice that in the major scale, we had nothing but majors and perfects. But then we look at the minor, and we don't just have minors and perfects. We have minors, but then, oh, right, we have this guy, this major that's kind of a little bit, doesn't seem to match the pattern, right? So let's look at what we do have. Well, I noticed that what got changed is we had this minor third, minor sixth, and minor 7. And that should make sense to you, because recall that to build a minor scale, what do? We flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7. Okay, so that really makes sense to me. But then what about this major? And if you recall in a previous video, I did mention that major intervals are seen in major scales. And so of course we go, well, why is this going to be seen here? Why do we have this here? And it turns out, why don't we have the minor second here, right, instead of the major second? Well, the minor second does occur in a minor scale. It just doesn't occur in this particular minor scale. This is the C natural minor, which is the pure minor, but it does actually occur in Phrygian. and Locrian, and those are both non-pure minor scales, but mostly minor. So, 75, 80, maybe 90% minor, but they're not purely minor. And that interval will occur there. All right, so now what we also notice is we notice that the P4s and P5s, right, perfect fourths and perfect fifths occur in both of them. And why is that? As well as perfect unisons and perfect eights, right? So why is it that we see these perfects right there, perfects, perfects, and perfects? And once again, that's because these notes are not being touched. Well, a perfect unison, you have to have the 1, so that makes sense. And the perfect 8, well, that's the same thing as a 1. It's just moved up by 12 half steps. And what about these 4s and 5s? Well, they're not touched. And that's why we consider these things to be perfect. If you notice, they're exactly the same in a major scale as they are in a minor scale. So that is why we call them perfect intervals. All right. And hopefully you get an idea about why we call these minor and major intervals, minor seconds and major seconds, minor thirds and major thirds. It really has a lot to do with, are we dealing with the major scale or are we dealing with the minor scale? One final note, and that's really kind of an important thing, is everything that we did so far with these intervals, it really had to do with reference to the C major or the C minor scale. When I was talking about intervals, it was going from C to D, then C to E flat, C to F, right? C to G, C to A flat, C to B flat, C to C. It always starts with this reference point of C. Now, can I reference, let's say, these two notes? Like, for example, could I go, well, F is going to be my reference, and I wanted to do intervals such as this. And what's that interval? And what's this interval? Absolutely, I could, but it's not the normal thing to do, right? We generally, at this point of the game, we really want to start with our reference as being the root or the tonic. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you've really enjoyed what you've seen so far, please just go ahead and click that subscribe button for me. It'll help keep us going so we can put out more great content for you.